The Safe Staffing Act was reintroduced to Congress this week by Senator Brown of Ohio and Representative Schakowsky of Illinois because it expired in the last congressional session again. There's a lot of exciting things in this that I can't wait to share with you. I've read the entire thing from beginning to end. It is long and dry reading. To summarize it so that you don't have to. Before we get into it, I want to preface this with a challenge for all of you. Please, before you jump to the comment section and start being really negative and critical and saying this will never fly in the ER, oh, it must be nice, yeah, that'll never happen. How about we, for once, for everyone outside of California, actually push for this. Actually push your representatives to pass this. Can you imagine how nice it would be if we had the same laws as California? Because this closely mirrors California's law. So please, for once, be positive and actually proactive instead of saying it'll never happen, okay? Let's jump to the most important part that everybody cares about, the minimum RN to patient staffing ratios. All right, in the 1 nurse to 1 patient category, we have trauma and OR. In the 1 nurse to 2 patient category, we have ICU, and this includes NICU. We have ER patients that are critical care, L&D, CCU, acute respiratory care units, PACU, and burn care units. In the 1 to 3 category, we have ER patients that are not critical care, peds, step down, tele, antepartum, combined L&D, and postpartum units. In the 1 to 4 category, we have med-surg. I repeat, med-surg 1 to 4. Acute psych, intermediate care nursery. In the 1 to 5 category, we have rehab, skilled nursing units. I repeat, 1 to 5 skilled nursing units. In the 1 to 6 category, we have postpartum couplets, so 3 couplets, and well baby nursery. What do you guys think of that? Second most important, there is considerable verbiage addressing acuity. This allows for acuity to adjust the ratios as needed. This is really important because this is the #1 argument that healthcare organizations use against any kind of safe staffing laws, minimum staffing standards. They like to gaslight us and say, oh, well, we trust our nurses and charge nurses to be able to consider acuity and make assignments based on that. Yeah, we all know that that's not true. It gives examples like if a nurse has a disproportionate amount of admissions and discharges, well, then she should have maybe 3 patients instead of 4 in a med-surg. Or if the physical layout is funky and a nurse is spread between or split between a couple of separate areas or pods, well, then maybe that nurse should have less patients, that sort of thing. So I'm going to repeat this again because I promise you they will bring this up and beat a dead horse with it. There is absolutely verbiage in here allowing for adjustments based on acuity. Let's go through some of the other really exciting components of this. It says the hospital may not implement any mandatory overtime in order to meet the minimum staffing ratios. They may not use video monitoring as part of the ratios. So like those remote nurses on the computer screen in the room, yeah, that cannot count in your ratios. Neither can the charge nurse or the unit manager or any kind of administrative nursing staff, unless they are taking a full patient load. The RN assigned to a unit must have demonstrated competency and be oriented to that unit prior to taking an assignment, including agency staff. It requires hospitals to be able to certify that every nurse received their breaks and the identity of who their break nurse was replacing them. And the break nurse is also required to have the same competencies in place. It requires hospitals to have a toll-free phone number for staff and patients to be able to report any violation of this, and that number has to be posted and given to every patient. These are my 2 favorite parts of the bill other than the staffing ratios. So it prohibits any interference with collective action union organizing, essentially. And if there is any violation of that, it's reportable to the secretary and the NLRB. So two separate entities now. There is an entire section on just whistleblowing, which you know I love. So it says the nurse may object to or refuse an assignment if it violates any portion of the bill or if they are not trained to accept that assignment. And any retaliation whatsoever will not be tolerated, and there are repercussions for that. In fact, all of these have repercussions that result in civil and financial penalties. The staffing ratios are exclusive to RNs, but there is quite a bit about LPNs and LVNs. My understanding is that once this bill were to go into effect, that hospitals would then have 1 year to conduct a study on appropriate LPN or LVN ratios and then have 18 months to institute those ratios. It also talks about unlicensed personnel, so CNAs, PCAs, techs, etc. And basically that is left open and to the discretion of the secretary. Now there is one part about this bill that I do not like, and that is that it leaves open a loophole for state of emergency designation. So just like during COVID, when we saw many California healthcare organizations getting away with violating their staffing laws, it has something similar to that in this. So I'm not happy about that. Other than that, I can honestly say that I love everything else in this bill. It is extremely comprehensive. It is so well written that it proactively addresses any potential scenario outcome that might result from any, preventatively addresses it so that when and if any of that happens, it's already there in the bill. I think it's amazing, and I'm going to follow it closely. And once again, I encourage all of you, for once, finally, because it's a fraction of us out there that actually support and push for these things, unfortunately. We need every nurse. There's 4 million of us, and that's just the RNs in this country, to get on board, to push for this. And then we need you to get all of your non-medical people to push for this as well. The time has come. We have got to get this as federal law.